In this team selection video, I'm going to use one of my 2 free transfers, we're going to discuss captaincy, and I'm going to tell you my plans right up until the game week 19 wildcard, including what I'm going to do with Haaland and Salah. Building from the back, it looks like I'm going to have to start Pickford every single game week because it appears that Turner's lost his spot for Forest. He faces Palace this game week, it is away from home, but from a defensive perspective, they're not bad opponents to face. Last game week, Pickford didn't have an easy fixture from a defensive perspective. That was against Brighton, and us Pickford owners were really unfortunate. It got to right near the end of the game where we had a clean sheet locked in. Mitoma made a cross, our defender blocked it, and it landed the only place where Pickford couldn't reach it. We were just really unlucky. Either way, Everton's defence has improved a lot recently. Before that was 3 clean sheets in the last 4 out of all competitions. And when I say all competitions, the cup match was against Premier League opponents anyway. This would have been 4 clean sheets in the last 5. In defence, Trippier continues to impress. He got a 9-pointer which was unexpected against Arsenal last game week. This game week he's got a much easier fixture. That's against Bournemouth away. I do fancy Newcastle for a clean sheet there, and Bournemouth have got one of the worst defences in the league. Don't forget that Trippier's an attacking defender. He could easily get an attacking return in that match. Originally I was going to sell him after this game week because he faces Chelsea and United, but are they actually difficult fixtures from a defensive perspective right now? And they are both at home. Then he faces Everton away after that game week. To be fair, I don't think those fixtures are as bad as I first thought, and with the points that he's been bringing in recently, I think I'm going to keep him for the long run. Next up is Tsimikas against Brentford at home. Now he didn't feature last game week, hopefully he does feature this game week. I'm hoping to get some league team news. I might not have to worry about it though, because I am considering making a defensive transfer that I will touch up on shortly. My last starting defender is Cash against Fulham at home. That's an easy fixture from a defensive perspective now Mitrovic has left. I had a bit of luck 2 game weeks ago where he had a clean sheet locked in, he got subbed off and then Villa conceded, but then last game week he was subbed off before the 60th minute and they did concede 2 goals, so he came away with a 0-pointer. Hopefully that doesn't continue this game week. We want the players to play at least 60 minutes, especially when they're defenders. On the bench is a player that I'm frustrated with. It's Ruben Diaz against Chelsea away. Now I kept him against Arsenal away, Brighton at home, then United away, so I could play him against Bournemouth at home, and he didn't even play. Then from this point onwards, he's got Chelsea away, Liverpool at home, Spurs at home, Villa away, and a blank in game week 18, so I am planning on selling him this game week. Although he does play for the best defence in the league, this is a tough run of fixtures. The clean sheet odds don't match up to the price tag, and he doesn't compensate for that because he doesn't have much attacking threat. Another reason for selling him is that I plan on getting Salah in game week 14, and I would like to keep Haaland as well because I do plan on captaining him twice after that game week before the blank game week 18, so I need to free up some cash, and I'll be making that double transfer, which will probably sell 2 mid-price midfielders for Salah and a low-price midfielder. Just make sure you stick around because I am going to reveal who I'm going to replace Diaz with. My other 2 players on the bench are Asula and Baldock for Sheffield United. They both face Brighton away. Although Asula's got lower expected minutes than Baldock, I don't expect Sheffield United to keep a clean sheet there. They could very easily get minus points because they've conceded so much. I'd rather have Asula come on the pitch for a little bit and see if he can get an attacking return. Of course that would be if I need at least 2 auto subs and that Asula actually features. Moving on to midfield, I've got the double up of Rashford and Bruno from United. They've got a nice easy fixture against Luton at home. I was right to keep Bruno against Fulham away last game week. He got a goal and 3 bonus points, plus the clean sheet point. He came away with 11 points in a game week where not many players scored high points. You might remember me saying last game week that it's not worth selling United players ahead of an easy fixture run. So far so good. Luton at home this game week is even easier. Obviously Rashford didn't feature last game week, but this game week he should do. I have a good story about Rashford last game week. We got leaked team news that he wasn't going to start, and I had to make a decision of either keeping him for Luton at home and Everton away if he's actually going to feature, or I could sell him for another midfielder. I couldn't think of any replacements that were worthy, so I decided to keep him for the next 2 fixtures and let Trippier come in off the bench instead, who brought on a 9-pointer. Next up in midfield is Saka against Burnley at home. He is flagged in the game, but I'm hoping he's going to feature, because if he is, he's going to be my captain. Now, if you've got Salah, I'd say he's the best captain this game week against Brentford at home, because I've had a look at the data, and he does edge it. I don't think it's worth making a best captain video this game week for that reason, but I've not got Salah, and I think Saka's fine. He's against Burnley, which have a poor defence, and he's got the home advantage. Now Son does face Wolves, which isn't a bad fixture, but it is away from home, and Bruno Fernandes has been a bit too inconsistent so far this season. I think his positioning's a bit dodgy. Obviously I've got 2 free transfers to bring Salah in this game week, but that would mean selling Rashford against Luton at home and Son against Wolves away, and I'd have to bring in a cheaper midfielder. Then he's got City away next game week, so I don't think it's worth it. Another option is to sell Haaland, but that's not a good option because I'm planning on captaining him next game week. Then there's also 2 other options where I could captain him before blank game week 18. So that'd be 2 free transfers out, 2 free transfers in, then 2 free transfers out ahead of the blank game week as well. That'd be 6 free transfers wasted on flipping between Haaland and Salah. I'm just going to stick with this for now, then have both of them from game week 14 onwards. Then I can offload Haaland ahead of blank game week 18, bring him back in on the game week 19 wildcard, and then potentially there's going to be a double game week in game week 20 that would involve City. That would have a massive upside, so I hope that gets scheduled. Right now, that's roughly an 80% chance. That's according to Ben Krellin on Twitter. Next up is Son against Wolves away, and I do fancy him for that one. Then he's got Villa at home next game week, which isn't a difficult fixture either. After that, he's got City away, but like I said, that's game week 14, and that's when he'd be part of a double free transfer to get Salah in anyway. So another benefit of that double free transfer is that I just about get to avoid the most difficult fixture of the season. Lastly in midfield is Mbeumo against Liverpool away and Arsenal at home. He's got 2 difficult fixtures on the bounce, but I've had a look at the alternatives and I can't see anyone scoring as much points as him around about his price tag in midfield up until blank game week 18. So I think I can get more use out of a free transfer elsewhere in my team because I'd like to bring him in for game week 14 anyway, where he faces Luton at home. And after that, he's got Brighton away, Sheffield United away, and Villa at home. That's a decent run of 4 fixtures from an attacking perspective. So I think it's worth keeping him through the 2 difficult fixtures, especially with the numbers that he's been producing recently. He's actually racked up 32 points in just the last 3 game weeks. That's unbelievable considering he only cost me 6.5 mil. To think I could have wildcarded in game week 8 and I wouldn't have kept Pickford and Mbeumo or Bruno because up until that point they had a really bad rough patch, and without following that route, the patience has paid off. I've had a couple of green arrows and I've still got my wildcard in my back pocket. Up front is Haaland against Chelsea away, and going to Stamford Bridge as an attacker definitely isn't easy. As much as Chelsea has massively underperformed their XG in the past couple of seasons, that's got nothing to do with the defence. Their expected goals conceded is the 4th best in the league. So I will be avoiding captaining Haaland in that fixture, despite how much of a good player he actually is. Before I reveal my free transfer, completing the team is João Pedro against Sheffield United at home. Before I brought him in, I knew he'd have a low floor because of his risky expected minutes. The reason I brought him in is because of his high ceiling, which gives him a high upside for his price tag. He's on penalty duties, he's got promising underlying stats, he plays in that Brighton attack. Unfortunately, he's not had many minutes so far, but if he does get minutes, I'm hoping it's going to be in this match because this is very easy. The problem is, there's not many players at his price tag or under that are good options, so I really need him to start getting the minutes. I can't really upgrade him because I need the funds for Salah ahead of game week 14. Now for the free transfer. Now remember, this is being recorded prior to the press conferences, so if any of my players get ruled out, I will have to make those free transfers on those players. But for now, if everything stays as it is, I'm going to do Diaz to Gabriel. I've already discussed why I'm shipping Diaz out, so if you've skipped to this point in the video, make sure you go back and listen to my reasoning. At first I considered a Fulham defender like Castagna with attacking threat, or a Wolves defender. That's because both of those teams have easy fixtures from a defensive perspective, when the defenders that I've got right now have difficult fixtures. The problem is, those defences are quite weak, and Arsenal's got the 2nd best defensive numbers in the whole league so far this season. Another thing is, in the suboptimal game weeks for those players, they don't offer much on the bench, but with Arsenal players, you know that they can just step in for a decent defence. So in game weeks like this, where I don't know if Tsimikas is going to get subbed on or not for a cameo, I could just bench Tsimikas. He could be the first defender on the bench, which is still decent, and I'd just start Gabriel against Burnley at home. To be fair, Arsenal's fixtures aren't too bad from a defensive perspective. When my other defenders have got difficult fixtures, they're just not quite as optimal as the Wolves and Fulham fixtures. So I think Gabriel will offer more stability for my team, and it's really cheap to get an Arsenal defender for 4.8 mil. If you've made it to this point in the video, you've clearly found it informative. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, so you don't miss any more videos like this.